Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about Eric Rohmer, one of my favorite filmmakers. Specifically, I'm going to talk about a release from Metrograph Pictures, Four Adventures of REINETTE and Mirabelle, which was released in 1986, right in the middle of Rohmer's Comedies and Proverbs, a series of 6 films that I did videos on each of a couple of years ago, and I'll leave a link in the description box below to my playlist of Rohmer's Comedies and Proverbs. So before we get to Four Adventures, Metrograph Pictures also released 2 other Eric Rohmer films in November of 2023, and they're the first and the last of the 6 Comedies and Proverbs, which were on Fox Lorber DVDs. They had not been, in the US at least, upgraded to Blu-rays. So we have both the first film and we'll have the last too. This is the first film in the Comedies and Proverbs, was The Aviator's Wife. And now this signifies, and this is around 1980, this signifies Eric Rohmer's return to his roots in the Nouveau Vague. So the 6 Moral Tales, which was his series in the 1970s, and he would make another series in the 1990s called Tales of 4 Seasons, which Criterion Collection is releasing in 2024. But in the Moral Tales, we had big stars, occasionally at least some big stars. They were mostly about men who had a choice between 2 different women, older men, or at least probably in their 30s, early 40s. Here he not only is going back to his roots of the Nouveau Vague, which is going out into the streets of Paris, and we are in a very famous park in Paris in this cover, and we are focusing more on younger people, college-age students, and also young urban professionals in their 20s. And their struggles with the affinities. Who am I attracted to? Who should I end up with? The Aviator's Wife has which was filmed in 16 millimeters, so there is a difference between this and the DVD, but it's not all that appreciable, except in this park scene. I think the film really comes alive here in more ways than one. Because there's a very delightful scene, one of the most delightful passages in all of Rohmer, where these pair of young people here are following the aviator. That's the aviator there. We don't know who that is. Is that the aviator's wife? And it's kind of a whimsical, almost Hitchcockian kind of atmosphere where they begin to trail the aviator, more or less to see what he's up to, more than anything else. And we have, and Metrograph Pictures also released the last of the films, Boyfriends and Girlfriends. My favorite of the 6 Comedies and Proverbs has a very much a Shakespearean dimension to it. It's almost like a Midsummer Night's Dream, maybe. Certainly the ending, the harmony of the ending is very Shakespearean. And again, we have couples that are really kind of confused as to who they should be attracted to. We're not in Paris here, so the kind of guerrilla filmmaking of The Aviator's Wife and some of the other Comedies and Proverbs on the streets of Paris. This is set right outside Paris in a newly constructed suburb. It's sort of self-contained. We can see Paris out in the distance. And here Rohmer did have to get permits to shoot in this newly constructed town. It's very busy. This film is an appreciable upgrade from the DVD. I'm assuming this was filmed in 35 millimeter. But let's get to Four Adventures. So the Green Ray was finished or was on hiatus. I've read 2 different accounts of when this film was made. The Green Ray being part of the Comedies and Proverbs. So this is not part of the Comedies and Proverbs, even though it comes in between, sort of, and right after the Green Ray, and so this is a very anecdotal kind of movie, as the title might indicate. The first adventure is in the country, and we see Mirabelle riding her bike all by herself on a country, very sleepy country road. Her tire goes flat. One of the locals, a girl living in a old renovated building all by herself, comes to her aid, and a friendship develops very quickly. She stays overnight because this friend Renee, she tells Mirabelle about the blue hour. So in the Green Ray, a natural phenomenon at sunset, when a brief moment when the sun goes down, and supposedly there's a green ray that comes across the horizon. The blue hour is at right before daybreak, in which there is peacefulness, there is absolute quiet. Doesn't last for an hour. I'm not even sure it lasts for a minute. But Renee tells Mirabelle, you have to experience this blue hour. And then we get other anecdotes within this episode where this newly formed friendship, these two girls visit neighbors, and they see the livestock and they see the crops being grown. It's a very peaceful and calming presence. And then the next 3 episodes are all back in Paris, and they're aimed towards a kind of comic mode, but we get this difference between the country and the city, the peacefulness of the country and the hustle and bustle, and perhaps even the inauthenticity of the city versus the farm folk that we've seen in episode 1, who seem very authentic indeed. So episode 2 is the waiter. This is one of the most comically arrogant waiters you're ever going to mention, where Renee gets a coffee. She's meeting Mirabelle. She's waiting for Mirabelle, and she gets a coffee, and then the waiter wants to be paid right away. She has a big bill. He refuses. He says, no, exact change only, the exact change. You have to have exact change, otherwise you gotta sit here until I get enough change. And when Mirabelle comes, who is implied at Paris, she knows that this waiter is off his noodle, saying that they have to pay exact change. This is very funny, and it's probably the shortest episode here. And episode 3, titled "The Beggar, the Kleptomaniac, the Hustler," and this is, as its title would indicate, this is about the morality of begging, the morality of giving money to beggars, your responsibility, your obligation to do that. A kleptomaniac, we see somebody in a store. Mirabelle is watching as the security are watching this woman who is stealing food, and Mirabelle and Renee have a very heated argument about the morality of that particular situation. And we get the hustler. We get Marie Revere, as always in Rohmer films. This is Marie Revere on the cover of The Aviator's Wife, but she is also the star of The Green Ray. She pops up. She's well dressed, and she has a hustle where, I lost my purse. I need to buy a train ticket. It costs this much money. And Renee, who is a proponent of helping people out in distress, gives her the money. But then she misses her train, and she sees Marie Revere doing the same hustle with other people. Again, a very funny little anecdote. And then we get the final segment, which is probably the best of this as far as a self-contained story, and this is selling the picture. So Renee is only 17 years old, but she is a painter with some talent. And so she has one particular painting. She can't pay her rent, so they come up with a scheme to try to sell the painting. And here we have Fabrice Lucchini as the art dealer, who played Percival and been on a couple other Rohmer films. He is so good here, and he's the only actor in the movie that really went on to a commercially successful career. And it's all about silence. This segment, selling the picture, is about silence. And as the Blue Hour was about silence in episode 1. And the advantage of being silent, the comic ramifications of trying to sell a painting when you've made a bet that you're not going to talk. And Renee has made a bet that she can go a whole day without talking because she is a chatterbox, and she has to stick to it according to her moral code. So again, we get anecdote. All these anecdotes really come from the actress who plays. She really wasn't an actress. I think this was her first film, and she only did 5 or 6 more. Joelle McHale, who Rohmer met once, thought she was interesting, and brought her to his office, and she just, as Rohmer would do with his actors, tell me your life story. And being a chatterbox in real life as the character, she gave Rohmer all kinds of stories, which he incorporates into the film. And she indeed was, according to the commentary, she was an artist, very primitive style. And the commentator, as far as she knows, these actually were her paintings that we see in the film. So this is very much a story of friendships, of opposites, and Jessica Ford plays Mirabelle, and she's much more open to experience. So they are opposites. Mirabelle is much quieter. Renee is a chatterbox, but you feel an authentic friendship, although even off camera they did not get along so well with each other. So we get this theme of silence and talking. Of course, Rohmer was always accused of his films were far too talky. We don't get any boys here. They talk about their boyfriends, but there's no love interest here, so that's very unusual for Rohmer. There's a simplicity, a documentary style. Godard, I think, is said every shot in a film is a document of the actors in this film, and Antonioni has basically said sort of the same thing. It's a documentary of this specific moment in time. You get that very feel, and Rohmer is documenting ordinary life. So everything is simple. There's great simplicity here. Very small crew. He didn't have permits to film around Paris, and when he did, he used an alias when he went for his permit because he was a famous filmmaker in 1986 in France, and he told him he was making a documentary. So they basically just left him alone. If he was just wandering around a train station, he would be allowed to do that. So there's no elaborate setups. So Rohmer, what does it all mean, all this stuff? Watching paint dry, Gene Hackman's description of Rohmer films from Night Moves. It's about coincidence, chance meetings that can affect our entire life. And we get a sense of real people because Rohmer was always interested in the life story of the actor. So even somebody like Jessica Ford, who did appear in many other films, he's drawing on her experiences as well, her own personality in Four Adventures, and there's something hypnotic about this style. Or at least that's how I feel. And all Rohmer fans would say you can get so involved with these characters, and the kind of distance that Rohmer keeps from his stories is really kind of fascinating. And there is a suspense. What's going to happen to these people? So all that is sort of elucidated by Adrian Martin in the two films from the comedies and Proverbs that Metrograph Pictures has put out. Here we have a commentary by Kristen Yunsu Kim. I've never heard her do a commentary before. She's really excellent, and she really gives you a great discussion of this film, what makes Rohmer so unique, and what makes this film, because I always like this film too. This is another one that was filmed, I believe, in 16 millimeter. So there's lots of green in this film. It doesn't bother me at all. You don't go to Eric Rohmer films for eye-popping color and clarity. It's all about the people involved and your involvement with them in their ordinary lives, and why Rohmer and perhaps his audience might find these adventures meaningful. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.